On this day in reading, I was still too new to have developed a pre-show ritual. Instead, I instinctively and discreetly started snapping photos with the palm-sized Nikon point and shoot camera that always dangled from a string around my wrist. As with most show days ahead, I shot a whole roll of film with ironic action shots of a girl doing mundane things on the road with a rock band. I documented myself at lunch in the catering tent, mouth wide open with food going into my mouth. Drew Barrymore and I hit it off quickly, both being Pisces with easy-to-point spot hippie vibes. So we took cute photos of each other, taking photos of each other outside in the sun. My passion for photography had grown in tandem with my obsession with music. In high school, I had my own darkroom. The camera lens always felt like a portal of sorts to me, like the eye of God, or a gateway to the future. Safely stored back at home in my Montreal apartment were a significant number of black and white negatives for my last 7 years of shooting and processing film. The themes and subjects were predominantly my very intimate world: nude self-portraits, an unmade bed, dust bunnies in the corner of my bedroom, and occasionally things in the outer world that I felt the most kinship with: local rock bands and dirty Montreal alleyways. The Nikon on my wrist was smaller than the smallest iPhone today and allowed me to document all the things 90s on tour with Hole for the next 5 years. Being my discreet presence and my little camera, I became a fly on the wall, taking everything in. This day in reading would change my life forever. Despite this, I still felt like an outsider looking in from behind a wide-angle lens, like a visitor dropped into a dream. Everyone needs to be on the side stage within 10 minutes. Pre-show P now, the production manager barked. I still wasn't feeling nervous, but I certainly didn't want to burden our big coming out performance with me needing to pee. So I stepped outside and followed the bathroom signs along the soft grass pathways between the lined-up trailers. I found a relatively quiet, clean bathroom stall and sat on the toilet for a moment of quiet alone before the gates to the unknown opened and tossed me out into the global stage, into the public eye. I had always felt close and good company with myself in intimate spaces like bathrooms and bedrooms. In high school, I had spent a lot of time in my bedroom and in bathroom stalls listening to my music and Walkman to comfort myself. Being alone was a safe place for me. Now I turned to my long-running inner dialogue. This was meant to be. They found me for a destined reason. Through the David Lynch looking glass I go. I am ready. I am here with you. I raised my trusted camera above my head for a bird's eye view of me on the toilet. No turning back, I looked up into the lens. I see you, I thought to myself. Click. I stepped out of the stall and took another self-portrait in the bathroom mirror. The casualness and calm I see in these photos are mysterious to me today. So open and sweet I looked, in the bathroom alone, a young woman on the precipice of such a radical new chapter. Was I more innocent than I remember being? I do know that with these photographs I was acknowledging the threshold I was crossing, like the ritual of bowing upon entering a Buddhist temple, or communicating with holy water in the entrance of a church, except my sacred moment was with myself in a bathroom stall with the camera looking on me, like in the holy eye of the future as my witness. Did I really have any sense of what my future was going to look like, or did I simply hold faith in it? I walked into that bathroom in one state of being. When I walked out, I crossed over into another. Behind me was an individual who had been living freely and independently in a nurturing but challenging bohemian landscape in a romantic, classic 1900s French-Canadian city. Ahead of me was a bizarre global stage where I'd been officially invited to join a larger-than-life enterprise as a culture shifter, which is not a small, intimate thing to do in the world. I took this task very seriously because it was not about me. I had agreed to join this band as a commitment to myself, to put women on a male-dominated landscape. I was also well aware of being part of a collective, unconscious effort that was trying to wake up and break the spell. Almost halfway through the last decade of the 20th century, it felt like an ominous future lay ahead. Beyond the giant millennial number change about to occur, there was a sense of massive momentum that had begun in our parents' radical 60s revolution and was now colliding hard with the 80s yuppie corporate hell of predatory capitalism. My peers and I knew that trouble was around the bend. We were deeply anxious about selling out, aka selling our souls to the devil, yet sadly, many were being consumed by what they feared: corporate greed, drug addiction, death, and the dark side of fame. Our voices were warning and mourning simultaneously. We were preparing to leave the naivete and arrogance of the past century behind, waking up to the sober reality of what experiments in industrialization and capitalism would mean for humans and our planet. Humanity was going to pay a high price for the decadent illusion of endless progress and possibility, all while making the most of our time together through noise, emotions, and concerted push against the bounds of expression. An innocent nihilism was flowing through us. The scarier our future felt, the hungrier and more passionate we became about staying true to the original dream and to each other. The people who rode that wave at the prime of their creative coming of age mirrored that radical transition. Back at the trailer, the rest of the band was leaving for the stage, surrounded by a flock of various new crew helpers. I joined them and followed our tour manager, followed the huge steps that led up the side of the giant open-air stage. As a sea of people came into view, I slid up my camera off my wrist and handed it to my guitar tech in exchange for my bass and slung it over my left shoulder. It took a couple of minutes for the technicians to check our instruments and mics, and then just like that, we strolled onto the stage. The crowd in front of us was as abstract and hypnotic as a raging ocean from my Celtic heritage. The sound of cheers and claps began to emanate from bodies squeezed together for as far as the eye could see. It was hard to distinguish the details of anyone's faces or voice. They all blended together in a merged human populace. This was an entirely different experience from the small local clubs of Montreal, where I could recognize everyone's faces and they mine. At reading, the distance between the stage and the first row of people created what felt like a force field of protection between them and my most intimate self. It created a sense of anonymity for such an overwhelming experience. What a juxtaposition it was for that in that moment to become a public figure, yet to be hiding behind a giant infrastructure. Maybe that is what fame is, to be exposed and anonymous at the same time. It was a wild feeling, to be sure. On the enormous stage, I took my spot 8 feet to the right of the fearless widow, who stepped up to the mic center stage with her guitar draped across the front of her body and the cigarette still dangling from her mouth. The crowd erupted in a cheer. "Oh yeah, I'm so goddamn brave," she drawled casually into the mic by way of introduction. She took another drag off her cigarette. "Yeah, sure. Let's just pretend it didn't happen." She raised her left hand in a stop signal. "Let's just pretend. Is that what you're doing? Pretending it didn't happen? Great. Well, I'm not. I have heard it described before that watching Courtney back then was like watching a car crash. It summoned shock and awe and confusion around how to react to this person who embodied so many impossibly unrelatable traits. Even with the cavernous gulf between me and the crowd, the calm and the audience excluded when she confronted them was eerie. Courtney was and still is an unpredictable anomaly. The world was just getting to know her then. She tossed her cigarette to the ground and without missing a beat, gestured in my direction. "That's Melissa. Fucking last name is French. Melissa, what is it? Of Maur," she said into the mic. I said into the mic, hearing my voice carry out over a field to more than 65,000 sets of ears for the first time on the wall in German. "Auf Maur, off the wall" in German. "Fucking French," Courtney repeated incorrectly, and then kicked right into the opening chord of Plump. He shakes his death rattle, spittle in his bib. I don't do the dishes, I put them in the crib. I played the songs that day, sang backups, and didn't make a mistake. I had officially arrived on the wild side of my life. No matter how alien it was or how familiar parts of it felt, I had no doubt I was supposed to be there. As dangerous as the days ahead would be, I accepted my call to duty. That performance at reading was the beginning of my portal into the abyss. It's almost a cosmic joke that the band's name is Hole. As I let myself fall into a deep valley of death and drugs, I was held steadily on one side by my left arm on the rosewood fretboard of my sunburst precision bass, while my right arm locked into the beat of Patty's bass drum foot. My trusted self, captured by my camera in the bathroom, continued to watch it all from a disembodied perspective up above. There was no way of knowing what would happen next. What impact could these dark forces and characters would have on me? Yet I felt eerily calm and perhaps overly confident that I would be protected. My silent inner dialogue continued on stage. I promised myself that I would be okay. I would eventually reunite with my former life on the other side. My self-preservation instinct developed throughout my childhood kicked in beautifully. I could feel the burn of all the eyes in the audience watching us on stage as I played for them and infused with them. I also felt the distant gaze of the feminist historians from the future who would look back at this time and witness these young women stepping out of the shadows and the pain into ourselves and the light. It was our time, a time of messy humanity, tragedy in slow motion, and raw music made by romantic broken poets for a world that did not know where it was heading. On that stage, I became one with it all. I belonged with everyone in that sea of humanity, giving myself over to that moment with them and the moment into our unknown collective future.